Continue our coverage on extortion in the country, which has become a problem, particularly in the Eastern Cape province. On Sunday, Police Commissioner Fani Masemola briefed the media on ongoing investigations into extortion-related cases in Mthatha, which has, of course, been identified as a hotspot. Last week, alleged extortion kingpin Dalinzolo Mareke, along with the two others, were involved in a fatal shooting with police officers attached to the National Intervention Unit. Well, my colleague Aldrin Simpia is at the State House in Bisho to speak to the Premier, Oscar Mabuyane, about what's happening in the Eastern Cape. Aldrin, a good morning.
A very good morning to you, Naledi, as well as our viewers this morning. Indeed, we are coming live to you from the State House in Bisho, and the Premier, Oscar Mabuyane, is sitting right next to me to have this conversation that has really gripped the nation, and that is in relation to extortion. We're having a conversation a bit earlier on with my colleague speaking about it almost seems that when we look at extortion currently, Eastern Cape has become the face of extortion. But if you look at the number of cases, it is not as bad as an example compared to KwaZulu-Natal as well as compared to the Western Cape. But why has it become so rampant in this particular province? The Premier is joining us this morning to have this conversation. Remember, as you mentioned earlier on as well, he's also raised the issue around the province not having an intelligence head for over a year. Premier, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. And when you were making that assertion about the province not having an intelligence head for over a year, you also mentioned the issue of the SANDF and maybe soldiers should be deployed. Where are you sitting right now and looking at the intervention from the National Police Minister as well as the National Police Commissioner? Do you think that is enough, or do you still believe that perhaps maybe the soldiers should still be deployed?
Thank you very much, Adrian. Good morning to you and good morning to viewers. Thank you for having us. I think firstly, let me express my sincere word of gratitude to the Minister of Police. Since the last 2-3 weeks or so, there's been a great change and improvement on the ground. The effectiveness of police and the capacity that they've brought has really changed the whole ball game. So, as a Premier, I'm quite relieved, and I think with time we'll be able to actually prevail on this challenge that we're experiencing. Yes, I would still insist, because I raised the issue of the deployment of soldiers to focus more on the catalytic project. This province is underdeveloped. We just can't afford any delay on any road construction, on any key catalytic project like Mzimvubu, etc. So to have soldiers camping around, police will never have capacity to monitor every project that is happening around. But on those key multi-billion projects that are here to change the socio-economic outlook of the province, you definitely need to make sure that projects are done on time, they start on time, they are done on budget. No delays, no crises, no mafia construction that are disrupting them. So soldiers, as they are doing along borders, they can still do that, just along those sites, just to protect the fiscus. That's a point that I was making. Of course, we saw what was happening in Mthatha and Gqeberha, but with this kind of capacity Minister of Police has brought, I'm quite relieved. There's a huge progress that has been recorded over the last few weeks.
Yeah. And since you made that proposal to have the SANDF deployed, and you're correct that there are projects like the multi-billion rand projects, including, for instance, the bridge that is being built, that is going to be the highest bridge on the continent, is the issue around how do you protect critical infrastructure. Since you made that proposal, has the President responded to you as yet?
I'm talking to the Minister of Defense because we made a submission a year ago. The new Minister of Defense has contacted me to say they are looking on the request, etc. Then it was multi-pronged because we were also trying to diffuse this problem and really push back this challenge of criminals. It has been happening in the province, this issue of extortion and all that. It showed its ugly head. Post-2016, if I may just zoom into that, particularly in Gqeberha, when we had this problem of coalition government. So the stability, governance stability also relates on the issues of policy certainty and all that. But when we had this coalition government in Gqeberha, we had about 18 SMMEs killed and with no trace, and no one reported to have been arrested and all that. police have been doing their level best in the province, so under-capacitated, so under-resourced. The province is so vast, it's difficult to react onto something that is happening 600 kilometers from where we are, up northeast of the province, without helicopters and all those kind of issues. So this is the point we've been raising with the Minister of Police and all that. Even the previous ministers have been consistent. So from where we are, I think, as I've said, we are moving forward, and the state is actually stamping its authority. This is what we wanted. We can't have thugs and criminals undermining the state. In Gqeberha, we are dealing with gangsters in northern areas. We are dealing with Amaginza in our own black townships. So we can't allow that situation to go on unabating. So the state is in control, I can tell you. I've been getting calls from Nelson Mandela. People are saying we're feeling free, we can sleep, we see our streets are clean, and we have said let's attend to such kind of situation, mobilize our communities, and police are all out on awareness, and we're working with them. Leadership is leading them, but we need leadership. We need leadership from a ward, we need leadership in the municipality, leadership in the province, so that we are able to work together. This issue needs a sort of a bottom-up approach, because police will never be in every household. They will always be brought in. But we also need the participation of the community to make sure that police are able to do their work effectively. So this kind of a mutual relationship that we would want to see between police that are more inspiring confidence in the communities, but as well as the communities that are able to reciprocate that to police. This is what you would have wanted to see. It's now happening. People are coming forward. Since the intervention that has been made, we've got more than 30 cases of extortion reported since the launch of the extortion line. We've got also more than 30 people arrested that are linked into those.
Yep. When we speak about policing from an operational level, the concerns that you've raised now, for instance, the under-resourcing and so forth, most provinces are speaking about that, and of course we know the decision that has been taken by Treasury. But when you look at the evidence that is before you, do you think that maybe a case has been made out that there should be a devolution of power when it comes to policing, because policing is currently a national competency? The Western Cape has argued for that. The IFP has also argued for that. Where does the Eastern Cape stand around that? Do you think that the province should be in charge of policing?
With the experiences that we have, that can be a better idea, but with effectiveness from the national ministry, as well as the entire criminal justice system. So probably that would not be a relevant call. But of course, you need, people believe that a premier has got authority over police. Yes. People believe that a mayor, that's why metros have got metro police. At least a mayor can be responsible for that and make sure. But in the province, you can't. You just have got a Department of the Department of Community Safety, which does a function of coordinating the police and all that, but police are directly responsibility of the minister as well as the police commissioner in the province. So, but we have this kind of relationship which doesn't stop us as leaders not to lead, because there is no single day when I say to the provincial commissioner, go and do your work, this is the challenge, and she says, I'm not accountable to you. So there's been this relationship of cooperative governance existing into that space as well. But to a certain extent, if there would have been authority, because I hear other people when they comment here and say it's a poor governance in the province, and people speak in abstract, being ignorant, not knowing the facts behind. Even if I would want to say, I need this deployment, but it must via a particular process. NATCOM must decide, minister must decide, etc., etc. But yes, to a certain extent, there could be some that can be devolved to a province, so that we are able to actually work together better in ensuring that we're effective on the ground.
Because I'm also thinking about the concern that you raised, that for over a year, the province didn't have a head of intelligence. And maybe perhaps if that head of intelligence was there and you had intelligence-driven investigations as well, you may not be sitting with this problem that you have now. Like I just pointed out, it is the Western Cape and the KwaZulu-Natal that are leading when it comes to extortion cases. But all of a sudden, the Eastern Cape has now become the face of extortion.
Yes, I think we must thank our people and thank the public that they went all out. It has been very difficult for people to speak out about this issue because people are scared, people are intimidated. But few who took it to social media started to catch that fire that we needed. We have been raising this issue for the last 4 or 5 years. It has been happening, whether it has been happening at a small scale, people squeezed in their cocoon, unwilling to speak out around these issues. But now that people have spoken out, I know Eastern Cape issues are always blown out of proportion. And unfortunately, we are in this periphery. It's easy to get these things. When thugs are running out of Cape Town, they come here because they are originally coming from here. Thugs are running out of KZN, they come here. The likelihood is that they are coming from Eastern Cape. Thugs are running out of Gauteng, they come here because they are coming from this. We are a labor-sending province. Everybody goes out and come back. And they think that this is a refugee camp. They can hide easily here. The province is rural. It's not easy to get all this kind of tracking. But police have been tracing. I can tell you, even during the time of Minister Bekele, we have been arresting. We've been following up some criminal thugs, west of kind that have been in Cape Town, have been arrested here, have been followed through. So there's been that kind of collaboration that we've been having. But I think police are safe where they are, but we just needed to work in a much more better collaborative way, in a much more effective way. We have been without the head of intelligence, and we've been raising that. Unfortunately, National must decide. The turnaround time has been frustrating for me on how SABS deals with issues of operations within SABS. The employment, and it takes time, even on critical positions like those. And I've been raising the point that we can't be in this kind of a province without the head of intelligence for more than a year. It's not that there was no person. Surely there would have been someone acting. But you need certainty in positions like those. You need effectiveness. You need robustness. Because most of these kind of interventions we're making now are intelligence-driven interventions. So you need intelligence, crime intelligence, to be at its best at all material times, to be able. Even yesterday, I got a feedback from a commissioner of Alfred Nzo, District Commissioner Majigijela, updating me about another intelligence-driven operation of someone who was actually transporting weapons with huge ammunition from KZN into here. That person was able to be nabbed, and I'm happy with those kind of progress. And we've been doing them. We've been doing them. We've done some in Mbashe in this towards the end of last week. Those ones who were also arrested, also coming from KZN around Aidujwa, they were appearing in court. So there are a number of such cases, but they've been happening at a very sluggish pace because there hasn't been a focus and effort. Now that we've got detectives, we've got special teams that have been brought here, we've got combat teams that have been brought here. So generals on detectives that are following up on everything, it's a huge sigh of relief. And I can tell you, we're cracking it, and the province is going to go back to normal, where people of peace, people in rural areas, they don't know these things. So they get shocked when they see all these kind of things. But also the business, because they needed to reach out to business. Yes, our business in rural areas, general dealers have been flooded by the foreign nationals that are now controlling them. So some, they would be doing these things, giving out whatever in a way of trying to be accepted in those communities. They must stop those issues. So whatever form of extortion, it must be stopped. And we are calling the communities, we're calling the business, no one. White-collar crime is another form of extortion when you get these things done in favor of that, on favor of that, simply because people have been mortgaged in a particular corner. So we're looking at those issues, and I'm quite happy with the progress. I think police are doing a huge progress in the province.
When we come back after the break, Premier, what I want to know is whether whether the laxness of the police, and you speak about the slow pace of the police in dealing with some of these issues, could have actually influenced what we're currently seeing around the extortion cases, where you have people who ask for protection fees to protect their communities from criminals. Maybe that could be one of the reasons. That conversation with the Premier after the short session with the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane, as we focus on crime-related, the crime situation situation in the province, specifically extortion as well as the so-called construction mafia. Last week, there was an incident that played out in the Eastern Cape in Mthatha where the police were on the way to the embassy building where they have their barracks there, and they were followed by 3 men. One of those men, we understand, is Chief Mareke, or so-called Chief Mareke. They were gunned down by the police. All 3 of them died, including Chief Mareke. And I just quickly want to refer here, Premier, to the statement that was issued by the house of the so-called late Dalinzolo Mareke. And this is what they said in that statement. Chief Mareke was a dedicated champion of change, tirelessly working to combat crime and drug abuse in our community. That's how they are describing him. Because if you also look at how he became the so-called chief, it was because he was saying to the people, I will protect you from criminals, meaning that the law enforcers may have lost control of crime, and that then influences the reason why we have cases like these where individuals are saying, I'll protect this community, but of course at a fee.
Well, it's one of those unfortunate situations. Well, condolences to the family. I've never heard about someone called Mareke before, up until this situation. And it also talks much about our traditional, our way of appointing the traditional leadership. I know in other areas they elected them. In other areas it goes through the genealogy, family tree, the cultural way of doing it. So it's one of those unfortunate situations. It would have been unfortunate for any law-abiding citizen to do what he did in terms of going and confront police if they would have done their search with a search warrant in his premises, and also finding wrong things in his premises. So I think police have done well, and we have said it so to police. September is the Police Safety Month, and we are commemorating it. So we can't commemorate the Police Safety Month by losing police to thugs. Anyone who points a gun to a police, that person is fighting the state. Police represent the state. So police must actually not back off. For people to have confidence. People lost confidence in our police with all manner of things. We've heard such stories there because a lot of allegations have been made. Many police are also part of the taxi industry. So even if taxi industry is fighting against each other, it's difficult for police to come in because they are in the industry themselves, owning taxis and all that. Those have been allegations happening around that space. So we want a clean, professional police service to make sure that our people are safe and our people are free. So yes, this sluggishness in responding to issues like this might have led into communities feeling that they must find ways of protecting themselves. It has happened before. Growing up during difficult time of the struggle, we used to protect our communities as volunteers, many as SDUs and all that. So it has been happening like that when people lose confidence in the state. Yeah. So we lost confidence in the state before, as the apartheid state. We don't want that situation. We said our people will be free in a democratic system. Police must protect our people, and all our people must actually be free. So it's important that we underscore that one, that we should be able to look at that. And how do we make sure, as we clean the criminals on the street, but how do we look, how do we do an introspection in the police service? What kind of warm bodies do we have? We can be putting more boots on the ground, more police recruiting. Many people that will be recruited now into police service would have been on the street for long looking for jobs, being jobless. Now they are coming into this kind of job with network that they had before. So how do you disrupt such kind of community setup networks and syndicates and all that? So it's going to be important to look at police, because every time you go to Imbizo, you listen to people, a lot is being said about police and why people don't trust police and all that. But I'm quite happy so far with the work that police, there will be the few elements in the police system who might be involved in such things. But the overall police have demonstrated that they are committed into this kind of work. They are committed as patriots to protect our people on the ground.
You say that you don't know Chief Mareke. King Dalingebo, the Abatembu king, had said in one of their meetings that you're actually a beneficiary of Mareke's antics and what he's been doing to these communities.
You know, I've just realized in the province that there are some people who are easy to create diversion. when there are issues like this, they will go around, go to media studios, create diversion so that we don't focus to the real issue. So I've heard that, I've seen that, the king saying it is unfortunate to be said by someone like that. I would still appreciate, that's why I want police to investigate that. I would still appreciate him coming forward.
What do you mean you want police to investigate? Did you open a case against him?
Definitely, we're opening a case, not only against him, but against...
Sorry, Premier, just a bit slowly now. So are you saying that you have opened a case against the king, or you will be opening a case against the king?
I'm opening a case. Actually, today I'll be signing of an affidavit against anyone who says such things without facts, because I want us to seek the truth from facts. So he must be able to come forward and tell, because it's not only mentioning these names loosely, it's mentioning everybody, MEC. We are the face of government. We are dealing with crime. He says things loosely, recklessly like that, and I can tell you, whether he has been briefed by some or is being used by some to do what he has done, it's something else. But I want police to investigate. We said we wanted to expose every person, whether a politician, whether a what, who might happen to be in the network itself, whether it's a traditional leader itself. And we must also be alert to the diversions. People who can stand up, have a mic, create all wrong things so that people are not focusing on the real issues at hand. So I'm taking that the direction because I won't be going around media talking and insulting the king, exchanging with the king. So I want police to go down and investigate. King must be able to say to police, I said this thing because of this and that. You know, as a politician seated here, some people are doing funny things on our names. We don't know those things that are happening there. No, I'm here. I'm sent by the chairperson of the ANC in the province or by the premier. I'm here. I'm sent by a mayor. Because he was saying those things. He said that thing in a meeting where I was to start this thing. And I take it as one of those unfortunate situations that a person of his caliber can just recklessly and loosely say things like those. But it's an opportunity for us to go deep because he might have information that we don't have. So he must help us with that information.
But as far as you're concerned, you're not involved in these so-called construction mafia as well, extortionists?
That's nonsense. I would never be involved in something like those. I've been fighting. That's why I've been demanding police to capacitate here in South Africa, here in Eastern Cape. That's why I've been demanding soldiers to come. I'm fighting what is right for people of Eastern Cape. I'm protecting people of Eastern Cape. Thugs are pushing back. They will forever pushing back. So we've been hearing this, but also you zoom into the taxi industry. Some who are fighting against each other in the taxi industry are using these things because we must not recognize structures in the taxi industry that have been set up by their constituencies. Yep. Because if you do that, you are blackmailed. No, you are working with these as against these, as they continue fighting against each other. So we are always exposed to such, we are always subjected to that, and we don't want it to work in abstract anymore. We must work on facts. So we must deal with that. Everybody who says anything loosely, that person must be held accountable.
Yeah. What do you then say to people who may argue that because of you being the first citizen of the province, the political influence that you hold, you may be able even to sway the judiciary, may be able to sway the prosecutors? And with that said also, I'd love to hear what your response is to the NPA deciding not to prosecute you in relation to the money that the public protector said you got from the money laundering allegations that she had made against you and the finding that was made against you. Did you make any representation to the NDPP?
The matter has been investigated over the last 5 years or so. The decision of NPA from where I'm seated is consistent with the court judgment here in Bishop when we took the report of public protector on review. The report was set aside and reviewed by the court. Public protector had all the right to go. They were there actually defending that. They lost in the court because we had facts in place on what has actually happened. So all these issues that have been happening, I've come to a conclusion that they were just meant to push back so that we don't lead, we don't champion the renewal of the ANC that we've been championing, making ANC relevant in the modern days. So people will forever be creating these manner of stories, which is not an issue to me, because if you open a case, then the case will be investigated properly. Fortunately, I don't speak to the judiciary. Judiciary is a national competence. I always wait. I always put my case very clear. I always follow the law. I'm a law-abiding citizen, and there are people who are really digging deep to scandalize and forever scandalizing me. I've accepted that, but I always say lies have got short legs.
Yeah, but after that Bisho High Court, the NPA still continued with their investigation, and still the impression that was given was that there will still be a matter that is brought against you. And that was 2022 when the Bisho High Court took that decision. Did you make any representation to the NDPP or the provincial head of prosecutions around why this matter against you should not go ahead?
I never made any representation because I waited for them to investigate, finish their investigation, and tell me what next. I never made any representation. There was no need for me to make any representation to the NDP, to the DPP.
To the DPP. Just a final one, the qualifications issue with Forte. There was part A of the matter, of course, which interdicted the SIU from continuing with its investigation. The finding that was made as well, that they went too broad in the terms of reference of the investigation. There's part B of the matter. Are you still going ahead with that?
Part B has been done. An order was issued. SIU couldn't go and defend. So part B is also done and concluded. I'm on another case now with Forte, to challenge Forte on the deregistration, to challenge Forte on the so-called forensic report. It's a flawed report. I was a student at Forte. When they appointed the company to do a forensic investigation, I was even never given an opportunity to come and present as a person affected. I was never invited in any forensic. I just got here. They tried to hide it and took it to SIU to legitimize a wrong thing, which was done by syndicate. That's why we are not shocked when we see all the arrests that have been happening, that there's been a criminal syndicate network happening around Forte to make sure that these things were done. It's also not delinked from the political mischief that is also linked to the same cases that we've just spoken about. So for me, it has been a concerted effort, attack from different angles, to really push back me as a person, to really disrupt this province on the trajectory that this province actually is taking. So even that one, I'm taking it. It is going to court soon. We have taken Forte on that one. On two, our prayer is the issue of deregistration. I've appealed to Senate. I've appealed to Council. I've never been given a single opportunity to come and present. All those were squashed because there was no appetite for me to come and say my side of the story. So at least you should be able to apply the doctrine of audi alteram partem in any cases like those. If you are alleging that this is a person, a case of student, I was a president of students at university myself. A case of students starts in the department, goes to a faculty, goes to a senate, up to a council as a last final arbiter. This case was brought by the vice chancellor himself. Yes. In the Senate, a file under his actually arm brought it, and with a name. I've never heard a case of a student being mentioned with a name. A case of a student is always referred to through a student number, but this one was a deliberate one. That's why I heard about it 2 weeks before from a journalist, that you will be deregistered at Forte. So, I mean, this has been an issue, a very, very desperate effort by some few elements to make sure that I'm actually out of the picture.
So are you saying that Professor Butlung is part of that syndicate?
He's a vice-chancellor of University of Forte. All what has happened there, all the networks, people framing people developing hit lists, including their names, all what has been said that there was a hit on him planned by people around him. He's a vice-chancellor, there's an accounting officer. He can't play ignorant. He can't say he doesn't know.
Can't say that it doesn't know. Premier, thank you so much for your time. That is the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane, speaking about, of course, crime in the province, but also other matters relating to himself, and the NPA having taken that decision not to go ahead with a prosecution. And this was on the basis of the report by the then Public Protector Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, looking into money that was allegedly swindled out of the province that went towards building a wall around the Premier's home. But of course that allegation has now been squashed, and the High Court has also now set aside that report by the former Public Protector. It's back to you in studio.